Scott Kilbrick, the Video Foot Doc, here with another video for you on all things foot and ankle. Today I'm going to talk about melanoma. Melanoma is a pretty serious cancer that affects the skin and basically involves a mutation in which the cells that create your body's pigment, the melanocytes, begin to overgrow. And this cancer, as it develops, will create areas of the skin that look like dark freckles in some instances, and other times they are actually lighter areas of skin in certain cases. Unfortunately, this cancer is actually fairly deadly because once it gets through the body's system, it can travel to other organs and cause organ failure as a result of the cancer spreading to those organs. We're seeing a big rise in melanoma, unfortunately, because of multiple different factors, including increased ultraviolet radiation exposure through just simply being out in the sun, as well as through use of tanning beds and other types of situations in which people are exposed to ultraviolet radiation directly onto the skin. Melanoma can form on the foot. There are many instances in which people have had melanoma diagnosed on their foot, which have unfortunately spread to other parts of the body and the organs and have caused death. Melanoma is a skin lesion that looks sometimes dark, sometimes raised, and as I said before, in some instances it can actually be a lighter color. Because of the fact that this cancer is particularly dangerous, it is very important that any new moles or dark areas of the skin be investigated. And if there's been any change in any moles that have been present for many, many years, that also needs to be investigated as well. Essentially, when we look at skin lesions and areas of the skin, including the foot, and look for abnormalities in the way that the moles appear, we're looking for a number of different things. One, we're looking for the size of it. Generally, really small moles do not necessarily progress to cancer. However, if they're over 6 millimeters in size, there's a higher likelihood that those cells could potentially be cancerous. We also look at the general color of the actual mole itself. If it's uniformly dark, that's one thing. However, if there are areas in which some of it's dark, some of it's light, and it's kind of spotty, that gives us a little bit more suspicion that there's a possibility that those cells in that mole are cancerous. We also look at the general border surrounding the actual mole itself, and if it's a nice smooth sort of circular or oval pattern, then we're less concerned. However, if that pattern is sort of scalloped looking or has a lot of irregularity to it, that also lends us to believe that there's a possibility that there might be more going on than just simply a benign mole. We also look at the symmetry of the actual lesion itself. The symmetry basically, it means that if you were to divide the mole in half, each side should be fairly equal, almost like a mirror image of each other. However, if the mole is sort of short on one side and maybe elongated on the other, or just they look differently if you were to cut it in half, then that demonstrates to us that there's a possibility that that mole may have some features which we need to investigate. Also, any recent growth of, as I said before, of any particular pre-existing mole or skin lesion also would prompt us to want to investigate it to see if there's the potential for it to be any cancer. Now, not to scare anybody, most moles and most dark freckles and areas on the skin are typically not going to be cancerous. The vast majority of them aren't. But there are cases in which these moles are cancerous and they need to be removed immediately and further investigation made as to any other potential moles, or even if the mole is deep enough, if the actual tumor has gone deep enough, you have to investigate the lymph system to see if anything has spread from that point in the skin to the internal organs. So sometimes these are cancerous, and then they definitely do need to be investigated if there's any features to the mole that I just described, or if there has been any change. Now, how do we investigate moles to see if there's any cancer in it? Well, it's a very simple procedure called a skin biopsy. And what essentially we do is we numb up the skin and we take a little punch or a little bit of a core of skin out of the center of the mole or the lesion. And then we send that to a pathologist who will basically look at that piece underneath a microscope and will look at the cells to see if there's been any cancerous change or cancerous features to that cell. Now, if cancer is found, then that's a fairly serious thing and has to be addressed right away. There are different types of melanoma. They can include melanoma that goes deep, Some melanomas that spreads less deeply but more around the sides. As I said before, there is some cases of melanoma that actually don't have any pigment in them. They're actually what we call amelanotic melanoma. And then there are other instances of melanoma that can occur actually not just where the skin is, but also in the skin and region surrounding the toenails or the fingernails. This is primarily seen in African American individuals, but it can be a particularly nasty kind of melanoma if not diagnosed in time. It can create a dark brown streak or a black streak that can progress from one end of the nail to the other. And although this is not uncommon in people who have darker skin pigment, there are certain times when this particular streak is cancerous and needs to be addressed right away. Once the results are obtained of these skin biopsies and the cancer is addressed, then it's just simply a lifetime of monitoring to make sure that there's no further return of the skin cancer. Now, if the biopsy comes back as negative, there's nothing necessarily to worry about, but you should always keep an eye on that site where the mole was taken from to see if there's any change or any growth or change in color or size to that mole itself. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please look for more videos on this site as well as others, or you may check out my website at www.inpodiatrygroup.com. Thank you.